There are thousands of trucks that deliver goods, but only Pakistani half-axles often break. As long as the master's skills are up to standard, the half-axles in Shinji can be used 3 times. The truck that broke down on the roadside in front of us was unfortunately crushed by the loaded goods. In order to avoid exceeding the delivery time of the goods, the owner took a special car to the repair shop and prepared to ask the master to do a quick repair for 2,000 rupees. Because the fracture position of this half-axle is in the center, the original length must be measured before repair to facilitate subsequent reference after splicing. Because the fracture surface is too large, the splicing must cut a part of the shaft rod to prevent the shaft rod of the half-axle from being lost. Replacement, then record the cutting position by comparing the fracture surface. After the master has clarified the repair plan for the half-axle, the broken spline end shaft rod will be cut. The purpose of doing this is that splicing is based on the rigid requirements of the plane. When the fracture surface extends too much, only one section can be cut at the back. At the same time, the master also needs to use a twist drill to drill a hole in the shaft core. This hole is the key to the half-shaft docking. To ensure that the avermetal in the store can be more solid, the hole that has been drilled needs to be processed by the inner hole cutter. The larger the hole diameter, the wider the contact surface. It also makes it difficult for the inner line to overlap the convex part. After the master has finished processing the flower sword end shaft rod, in order to match it with the prepared avermetal, the avermetal with inconsistent appearance needs to be cut and cut. The hole diameter processed by the flower sword end is the processing standard. The entire head is cut to produce a convex part with consistent data. Although the hard half shaft has not been returned, their newly polished turning tool can also eliminate the steel furnace mud to ensure that the two can dock with the color seam. The master also needs to use a card to measure the outer diameter. There will be mineral content in the hole position to avoid embedded stones. After confirming that it is correct, the end face will be cut out of the splash mouth. This will increase the welding area of the welding rod. After the cutting of the docking convex column is completed, the other end needs to dock with the flange end shaft rod. With the previous processing experience, at one end, we only need to use the existing data to completely replicate the same convex column. In order to avoid the splicing position from breaking again, the embedded convex column needs to use a different method. As for this section of the convex column surface, threads need to be cut. In order to make that have a higher bite, the master also processed a 1.5 fine tooth. After the master used the caliper very skillfully to compare, this is important. When the flange end elbow rod needs to be docked, the fracture surface consistent with the foil end elbow rod also needs to be cut and removed with the help of a lathe. Since the length of avermedia has been fixed in the early stage, the cutting position of the flange end elbow rod can be offset from the previous measurement mark, which will cause the length of the spliced half shaft to deviate. Although their store does not have a high-end cutting groove knife, their Rowan knife is also very efficient. When the shaft feeling that has been successfully cut needs to be docked with the avermedia Rowan, the core hole position must be indispensable. However, they do not have a drill bit of the same grade. The master's skill in operating the hole knife is very superb. It took a short minute. The hole mirror can be used to make the hole position that does not meet the requirements. It is not convenient to process threads on the inner wall due to the hole diameter. Their homemade taps come in handy. This tap is also specially made for the half shaft. The outer diameter of the tap is equal to half of the outer diameter of the shaft rod. The half shafts with the same data use different taps. This is the convenience brought by their homemade tools. After the thread company on the flange end is completed, the master first needs to connect the section without threads with the flower sword end shaft rod through a hammer. The groove of Yuangong can fit with the shaft rod to avoid hollow bones inside the shaft rod hole position. In order to facilitate the Rowan docking, the master also needs to screw the two ends on the lathe. When the force is gradually applied to the bottom, the force of the front of the pipe is used to make the grooves at both ends close together. For the half shaft with the axial hole docking like this, the concentricity needs to be measured before welded. Because the groove occupies half of the shaft diameter, after each welding circle, the surface welding slag can only be manually cleaned to avoid the inner layer welding effect is not strong enough. Then the protruding welding bar is cut directly because the outer diameter of the Yuangong that is connected is relatively large. The inner surface needs to be cut and removed to restore the outer diameter of the half shaft to the original factory. Then this scrapped half shaft can be used again. The repair technology is really amazing.